Guess who they can't stop seeing even with their eyes closed? Look who they can't stop thinking about anymore. Look who finally became the ghost that haunts every single one of their quiet moments. The name they can't say out loud without their voice cracking just a little. The memory that shows up uninvited at 3 in the morning when they're lying there wondering where it all went wrong. You. It's always been you. And now when it's far too late, when the doors are bolted and the bridges are ash, now they're finally understanding what they had. Now they're finally seeing what they lost, and it's hitting them like bricks. One after another, until they can barely breathe under the weight of their own stupidity. You want to know what's really happening right now? They're scrolling. They're searching. They're typing your name in search bars at 2 in the morning and then deleting it before they hit enter because they're terrified of what they might find. They're stalking your silence like it's a language they never learned to speak. They're asking mutual friends about you in that casual way that fools absolutely nobody. They're pretending they don't care while their hands shake when someone mentions your name. Because something shifted, something clicked, something in the universe finally whispered the truth they spent years running from. You were the rarest one. You were the exception. You were the one they'll spend the rest of their mediocre lives trying to replace and failing every single time. They thought you were common. They thought you were just another option in a world full of options. They thought they could find someone better, someone easier, someone who didn't challenge them or see through their performance or demand they actually grow. They thought you were replaceable, disposable, forgettable. And they were so confident in that belief. They walked away like it was nothing. Like you were nothing. Like everything you gave, everything you were, everything you offered was just some baseline experience they could recreate with anyone. They treated your presence like it was guaranteed. Like you'd always be there waiting. Like you'd always come back no matter how many times they chose someone else, something else, anything else. But here's the part that's destroying them now, the part that's keeping them awake, the part that's making them physically sick with regret. You didn't come back. You didn't wait. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't perform the role of the heartbroken fool waiting by the phone. You just left. And in that leaving, in that silence, in that absolute refusal to give them any more of your energy, you became unforgettable. You became the standard. You became the ghost that makes everyone else look like a cheap imitation. And now they're out here in the world, dating, talking, connecting, and every single person they meet is being measured against you. And every single person is falling short. They're trying so hard to convince themselves they're fine. They're posting pictures with new people, new places, new experiences, all carefully curated to look like happiness. To look like they've moved on, to look like losing you didn't crater their entire sense of reality. But you can see it, can't you? If you look close enough. You can see the emptiness behind the smile, the performance in the laugh, the desperation in how hard they're trying to prove they don't need you. Because people who are actually happy don't need to broadcast it like a hostage video. People who are actually over you don't need to make sure you see how over you they are. And every post, every story, every carefully crafted image is just another brick adding to the weight that's crushing them. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you the exact moment it all changed for them. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some movie scene where they saw you across a crowded room looking incredible. It was quieter than that, crueler than that. It was the accumulation of 1,000 small moments where the person they replaced you with did something, said something, failed to do something, and their brain automatically thought, that's not how they would have done it. They would have understood. They would have known. They would have cared. It was listening to someone talk and realizing the conversation had no depth, no substance, no challenge. It was being in a room full of people and feeling completely alone because none of them saw them the way you did. It was waking up next to someone and feeling nothing. It was trying to share a joke and getting a blank stare instead of that specific laugh that used to make everything worth it. It was reaching for connection and finding performance. It was searching for substance and finding shallow. It was looking for magic and finding mundane. And slowly, painfully, inevitably, the truth started seeping in through the cracks in their denial. You weren't just different. You were better. You weren't just special. You were irreplaceable. And they, in their arrogance, in their foolishness, in their absolute refusal to see what was right in front of them, they let you go. Now they're remembering everything. Every conversation, every moment, every time you showed up when no one else would, every time you understood without explanation, every time you saw through their walls and loved them anyway, every time you challenged them to be better, every time you gave them a level of care, attention, depth, realness that they took completely for granted because they thought it was normal. They thought everyone loved like that. They thought connection like that was easy to find. They thought wrong, and now they know it. Now they feel it. Now they're drowning in the reality that what they had with you was once in a lifetime and they treated it like it was nothing. You want to know what's really eating them alive? It's not just that they miss you. It's that they're finally seeing you clearly. For the first time, without the filter of their own ego, without the distortion of their own fear, without the blindness of their own immaturity, they're seeing who you actually are. And you're not who they told themselves you were. You're not the person they diminished in their mind to make walking away easier. You're not the flawed, difficult, too much person they convinced themselves they were better off without. You are brilliant. You are rare. You are the kind of person that comes along once and never again. And they're seeing it now. Now when it's too late. Now when you've moved on. Now when the door is closed and locked and you've thrown away the key. They're watching you from a distance now, and they can't believe what they're seeing, because you're not broken, you're not waiting, you're not diminished by their absence. You're thriving, you're glowing, you're becoming more of yourself every single day, and that is what's destroying them, because they thought losing them would break you. They thought you'd crumble. They thought you needed them more than they needed you, but you proved them wrong in the most devastating way possible. You proved that you never needed them at all, you just chose them. And when they made it clear they didn't value that choice, you simply chose differently. You chose yourself. And that self you chose is flourishing. Every picture they see of you, every update, every glimpse into your life now, it's like a knife. Because you look free. You look happy. You look like you've been untangled from something that was holding you back. And the cruelest realization is hitting them now. They weren't adding to your life. They were weighing it down. You weren't hard to love. They just didn't know how. You weren't too much. They were too little. And now they're watching you shine for someone else, or maybe just for yourself. And they're understanding with brutal clarity that they were never your ceiling, they were your floor. And you've been rising ever since you walked away. Let's talk about what they're doing right now, because it's pathetic and satisfying in equal measure. They're comparing, constantly, obsessively, cruelly comparing everyone to you. The person they're with now, they're nice, sure, but do they get the references? Do they understand the silence? Do they know when to push and when to hold? No, they don't, because they're not you. The new friend group, the new routines, the new life they're trying to build, it all feels hollow because it's missing the one ingredient that made everything taste real. Your energy, your presence, your specific, irreplaceable way of seeing the world and seeing them. They're having experiences now that they wish you were there for. They're seeing things, learning things, going places, and their first instinct is to tell you, to share it with you, to get your take on it. And then they remember, you're gone. You're not theirs to share with anymore. You're not in their life anymore. And that absence, it's not getting easier, it's getting worse. Because time isn't healing this wound, time is making it deeper. Every day that passes is another day they're understanding more clearly what they lost. Another day they're feeling more acutely the space where you used to be. Another day they're realizing that the hole you left isn't something they can fill. It's something they have to live with forever. Here's what they didn't understand when they had you. They didn't understand that you were a choice you made every single day. You chose them over and over and over again. When they were difficult, you chose them. When they were uncertain, you chose them. When they were at their worst, their most unlovable, their most broken, you chose them. And they mistook that consistency for weakness. They mistook your loyalty for desperation. They mistook your love for something cheap and easily found anywhere. But now that they're out in the world trying to find it again, now that they're searching desperately for even a fraction of what you gave, they're learning the hardest lesson. Love like yours doesn't come around twice. And the timing of their awakening is almost poetic in its cruelty. Because you're done. You're not waiting by the phone. You're not checking their socials. You're not wondering what if. You're not holding space for them to figure it out. You've moved on. Not in the performative way they're pretending to, but in the real way. The deep way. The way where they genuinely don't occupy your thoughts anymore. Where their name doesn't make your heart skip, where their memory doesn't steal your peace. You're free of them, completely, totally, irrevocably free. And they're realizing it, and it's killing them. They're trying to reach out in little ways now, aren't they? The subtle, like on an old photo. The vague post that seems directed at you. The message to a mutual friend that they know will get back to you. The accidental run-in that's not accidental at all. They're testing the waters, seeing if there's any chance, any opening, any possibility that you might still care enough to respond. And every time you don't, every time your silence holds firm, every time you prove that you're actually truly completely done, it's another brick, another weight, another crushing realization that they fumbled something they'll never get back, and they deserve every ounce of that pain. Let me tell you what's happening in their quiet moments. They're replaying it all. Every conversation, every fight, every moment they chose wrong. They're seeing now, with perfect painful hindsight, all the times you tried to tell them. All the times you showed them who you were and what you needed. All the times you gave them chances to step up, to meet you, to choose you back. And they're seeing how many times they failed. How many times they took you for granted. How many times they prioritized everything and everyone else. How many times they made you feel small when you were actually larger than life. And they can't undo. They can't go back. They can't apologize their way out of this one, because some doors once closed don't open again. You know what the cruelest part is? They're starting to see you in other people. They're meeting someone new and noticing your mannerisms, your phrases, your way of thinking. And it's not actually you. It's just that you set a standard, created a template, showed them what connection could feel like, and now they're desperately trying to find it again in anyone who remotely reminds them of you. But it's not working, because these people aren't you. They're echoes, shadows, poor imitations. And every time they try to force it, every time they try to recreate what they had with you, it just makes them miss you more. It just makes them understand more deeply that you were never a type. You were a once. They thought they were the prize. That's what's really getting them now. They walked around like you were lucky to have them. Like you should be grateful for their time, their attention, their half-hearted commitment. They really believed they were doing you a favor by letting you love them. And now they're understanding with humiliating clarity that it was the other way around. You were the prize. You were the catch. You were the one who was out of their league. And they, in their blindness, in their immaturity, in their staggering lack of self-awareness, they let you go. They actually let you go. And that mistake, it's gonna follow them for the rest of their life. Every relationship they have from now on will be haunted by you. Every connection will be measured against you. Every person will fall short because you set the bar, and you set it high, and you set it specifically, and no one else can reach it. They'll date people who are objectively great, kind, attractive, successful, and they'll still feel empty because none of them are you. None of them have your energy. None of them see them the way you did. None of them love them the way you did. And they'll break up with these perfectly good people, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because they're not you. And they'll do this over and over and over until they die. That's their sentence. That's their punishment. A lifetime of almosts and not quites and if onlys. Here's what they're feeling right now, in this exact moment, wherever they are. They're feeling regret so deep, it's physical. It's in their chest, in their stomach, in their bones. They're feeling it when they wake up, when they're trying to fall asleep, when they're in the middle of a conversation and they zone out thinking about you. They're feeling it when they see something that reminds them of you, which is everything. Because everything reminds them of you now. They're feeling it in every moment of silence, every beat of loneliness, every flash of memory that comes uninvited and unwanted, and they can't escape it. They can't outrun it. They can't drink it away or work it away or date it away. It's just there, permanent, unchangeable, the scar they gave themselves. And you're just living. You're not consumed by this. You're not drowning in regret. You're not wishing you could go back. You learn the lesson they still haven't figured out. Some people aren't meant to stay. Some chapters are meant to end. Some doors are meant to close. And when they do, you don't stand there knocking and begging and breaking yourself trying to get back in. You turn around. You walk forward, you find new doors, better doors, doors that actually want you on the other side. And that's exactly what you did. You walked away with your dignity intact, your standards high, your heart protected. And they're still standing there, staring at that closed door, finally understanding what was on the other side. Finally understanding what they lost. They're going to remember you for the rest of their life, not in the sweet nostalgic way, in the painful way, in the way that makes them cringe at themselves, in the way that makes them want to go back in time and shake their past self and scream, "What are you doing?" Don't let them go, in the way that makes every future partner feel like a consolation prize, in the way that makes them wonder, late at night when they're alone, what their life would be like if they'd just chosen differently, if they'd just seen you clearly, if they'd just valued what they had when they had it. But they didn't, and now they don't get to, and that's justice. So let them sit in it. Let them drown in the realization. Let them understand fully and completely that they had something rare and they treated it like it was common. They had something priceless and they acted like it was worthless. They had someone who would have moved mountains for them and they couldn't even be bothered to text back. Let them feel all of it. The regret, the shame, the loss, the emptiness, the desperate aching wish that they could go back and do it differently. Because they can't. And you're not going to help them feel better about it. You're not going to absolve them. You're not going to give them closure or forgiveness or another chance. You're just going to keep living your life, keep glowing, keep rising, while they watch from a distance and finally understand what they lost. It's hitting them like bricks now, one after another, the weight of their own stupidity, the crushing reality of their mistake, the undeniable truth that they let the rarest one go. And it's too late. It was always going to be too late. Because you don't get infinite chances with people like you. You get one, maybe two if they're feeling generous. But they burned through those chances like they were nothing. And now they're living with the consequences. And those consequences taste like regret, like loneliness, like the bitter knowledge that they ruined the best thing that ever happened to them. And they did it to themselves. So, here's to you, to the one who got away, to the one who they'll spend the rest of their life trying to forget and failing miserably, to the one who set the standard so high that everyone else is just disappointment in a different package, to the one who walked away with grace when they deserved rage, to the one who's thriving while they're barely surviving, to the one who was always too good for them and is finally acting like it. They're finally figuring it out. They're finally seeing you clearly. They're finally understanding what they had, and it's destroying them. And you're just fine, better than fine, free. And that's the sweetest revenge of all. You don't even have to do anything. Your absence is enough. Your happiness is enough. Your peace is enough. They lost you, and they'll never stop paying for it. Too late now. It's always been you, and they finally know it, and it's hitting them like bricks. And you're not there to catch them when they fall. And that's exactly how it should be.
Good. Then listen closely. Right now, everything is quietly changing around you. Not loudly, not with fireworks, not with some dramatic movie soundtrack in the background, not with a giant announcement telling you this is the moment your life turns. No, that's not how real transformation works. Real transformation is disrespectful like that. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait until you feel ready. It starts in silence, in the weird little moments, in the nights you stare at the ceiling too long, in the mornings when your alarm goes off and something inside you feels heavier than usual, In the random pauses between conversations where you suddenly realize you don't belong where you used to belong. In the way certain people now drain you faster. In the way certain lies don't comfort you anymore. In the way your own reflection has started asking questions your mouth is too scared to answer. And that's what scares people. Not the loud version of change. The quiet one. The one they can't track. The one even you can barely explain yet, because something is shifting in you right now, and it's happening under the surface. Like a crack spreading under ice. Like pressure building behind a locked door. Like a storm forming where nobody's looking. Everybody thinks your life is the same because your face still looks familiar. You still answer messages. You still show up. You still laugh sometimes. You still play your role. You still wear the same skin. But inside, the old structure is losing control. And let's tell the truth tonight. You felt it. You felt that strange distance between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. You felt that irritation with things that used to be enough. That restlessness, that random anger, that random sadness, that pressure in your chest when you realize you can't keep living small just to make other people comfortable. That's not you being dramatic. That's not you overthinking. That's not you going through a phase. That is your spirit getting tired of its own cage. And cages are funny, aren't they? People think cages are always obvious. Metal bars, locked doors, chains. But the worst cages are invisible. They're made of expectations, of old labels, of family narratives, of fake loyalty, of fear disguised as responsibility, of survival habits that kept you safe once, but now keep you small. That cage says, be grateful for what you have, but what it really means is, don't outgrow the people who benefit from your weakness. That cage says, stay humble. But what it really means is, don't become powerful enough to threaten the hierarchy. That cage says, don't change. But what it really means is, please remain predictable, because your transformation would expose everybody who settled. And that's why this season feels strange, because your soul is starting to reject things your personality used to tolerate. You can fake a smile, but you can't force alignment forever. You can play nice, but you can't unknow what you know. You can sit at tables that no longer feed you, but your hunger will eventually embarrass your obedience. That's where you are now. Somewhere between the old you and the real you. Somewhere between playing dead and finally becoming dangerous. Somewhere between exhaustion and awakening. Somewhere between, I can't do this anymore, and watch me. That middle place, that place is brutal, because nothing there feels stable. You're too aware to go back, but not yet fully built for what's next. So you feel split, half grieving, half becoming, half mourning the comfort of old patterns, half craving the violence of growth. That's why your peace has been interrupted. That's why your sleep feels different. That's why your intuition keeps tapping you on the shoulder in the middle of normal days. That's why certain conversations now feel fake before they even begin. That's why some rooms make your skin crawl, even when everybody else is smiling. Your nervous system knows before your ego admits it. Something is off. Something is ending. Something is being rearranged. And you know what most people do when they feel this? They run back to what numbs them. They text the person who ruins their self-respect. They scroll until their brain goes empty. They eat their emotions. They laugh at things that aren't funny. They stay busy so they never have to sit still long enough to hear their own truth. They call it coping. They call it staying positive. They call it being realistic. But deep down, they know they are sedating the version of themselves that is trying to wake up. You cannot afford that anymore. Not now. Not when life is literally reconfiguring itself around the standard you either tolerate or reject. Not when your habits are voting on your future every single day. Not when your silence is teaching people how little they need to respect your boundaries. Not when your excuses are becoming the wallpaper of your wasted potential. Because let me say something ugly and real. You are not just being shaped by what you do. You are being shaped by what you keep allowing. Every time you bite your tongue to keep peace with people who never protect yours, you train yourself to disappear. Every time you shrink your dream so insecure, people don't feel threatened. You betray your own bloodline. Every time you keep entertaining what is already proven it does not honor you, you participate in your own decay. That's harsh, I know. But sometimes truth has to hit like cold water. Soft lies built the prison, so hard truth has to break it. And here's the wild part. The world around you is adjusting even before you fully do. Some people are getting weird around you for a reason. Some connections feel tense for a reason. Some plans are falling apart for a reason. Some doors are closing. Some messages are slowing down. Some invitations are disappearing. Some energy is shifting. And no, it is not random. People can feel when you are becoming less controllable. They feel when your need for approval is dying. They feel when your loneliness is no longer enough to make you accept crumbs. They feel when your standards are rising. They feel when your silence is no longer weakness but observation. They feel when you are starting to see through the performance. And once they feel that, watch how many masks begin to slip. Watch who gets cold. Watch who gets insecure. Watch who suddenly accuses you of changing, as if that's an insult, as if evolution is betrayal, as if your growth is somehow violence against people committed to staying stagnant. No, your growth is not betrayal. Their dependence on your smaller self is the problem. Read that again in your bones. Some people did not love you. They loved their access to you, their influence over you, your predictability, your softness when it benefited them, your confusion when it made you easier to manage, your low standards, your constant forgiveness, your habit of giving one more chance after the disrespect. But right now, everything is quietly changing around you, because the version of you that tolerated all that is running out of oxygen, good, let it suffocate. Let the weak habits panic. Let the fake attachments shake. Let the old identity sweat. Let the people who got comfortable misreading you become uncomfortable. Let the version of you that begged to be chosen finally realize how insane it was to beg for a seat at tables built to starve you. You were never supposed to live like that. You were never supposed to spend your whole life proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. You were never supposed to carry your gifts like apology letters. You were never supposed to call your self-abandonment love. You were never supposed to call fear patience. You were never supposed to call delay humility, when really it was terror. You know that terror, that tight feeling, that voice that says, what if you go all in and fail? What if you finally become visible and get judged? What if you stop people-pleasing and they leave? What if you trust your instinct and it costs you comfort? What if you become who you really are and nobody claps? Let me answer that. Then let them leave. Let comfort get expensive. Let judgment happen. Let the applause never come. Because there is something far worse than being judged. It is being erased while still alive. Walking around as a version of yourself built entirely from compromise. Smiling in photos your spirit wasn't present for. Living in routines that make your soul feel like it's being slowly buried under bills, habits, and fake normalcy. That kind of death doesn't happen in one day. It happens in installments. Tiny betrayals, tiny silence, tiny surrender, tiny excuses, tiny postponements. One day you wake up and realize you didn't ruin your life with one giant mistake. You abandoned it through repetition. That's why this quiet change matters. Because repetition can destroy you, but repetition can also resurrect you. One disciplined morning changes your chemistry. One honest boundary changes your relationships. One season of isolation changes your standards. One decision to stop running changes your identity. One refusal to go back changes everything. You think your life changes in giant moments. Sometimes it does. But most of the time, it changes in the unglamorous choices nobody sees. The nights you do not send the message. The mornings you get up anyway. The hours you spend building while everyone else is busy performing. The quiet discipline of not explaining yourself to people, determined to stay confused. That is power, not noise, not flexing, not announcing every move like a trailer for a life that hasn't happened yet. Real power gets built in silence. Real power looks boring before it looks legendary. Real power is emotional control when your ego wants revenge. Real power is restraint when you could react. Real power is staying focused while chaos begs for your attention. Real power is seeing the trap and not stepping in just because it's familiar. That's what is being forged in you now. And I know it hurts. Growth has a lonely sound to it. It sounds like unanswered calls. It sounds like being misunderstood in rooms where you used to be celebrated. It sounds like outgrowing conversations that once made you feel included. It sounds like silence after you finally stopped chasing. It sounds like your old life getting offended because you no longer fit inside it. That pain is not proof you are lost. It is proof the split is happening. You are separating from the old programming, from the survival version of you that thought love had to be earned through suffering, from the insecure version of you that confused attention with value, from the exhausted version of you that kept saying yes because no felt too dangerous, from the wounded version of you that thought chaos was chemistry, from the scared version of you that kept waiting for permission to become undeniable. Permission is dead now. Nobody is coming to officially announce your beginning. Nobody is handing you a clean, perfect moment. Nobody is arriving with a certificate that says you are now allowed to trust yourself. So what? Move anyway. Move scared. Move uncertain. Move angry if you have to. Move grieving if you need to. Move tired. Move with shaky hands. Move without guarantees. But move, because your environment is already responding to the signal you're sending. Life listens. People listen. Energy listens. Opportunities listen. Patterns listen. When you keep acting like someone who expects the bare minimum, life keeps delivering it. When you keep negotiating against yourself, life mirrors that hesitation back to you. When you keep showing up half-committed, your results stay half-born. But when you decide, really decide, that your peace is no longer available for theft, that your future is no longer available for delay, that your mind is no longer available for contamination, something changes. Your posture changes, your language changes, Your choices change, your tolerance changes, and suddenly the same world that ignored you starts reacting differently. Not because the world became kind, because you became clear. Clarity is terrifying to people who benefited from your confusion, and maybe that's what's been happening. Maybe the chaos around you isn't punishment. Maybe it's exposure. Maybe all this friction is showing you exactly what can't go where you're headed. Maybe the betrayal clarified your standards. Maybe the delay clarified your hunger. Maybe the isolation clarified your voice. Maybe the heartbreak clarified your worth. Maybe the pressure clarified your power. Some of the worst moments of your life were not interruptions. They were separations. Life was removing what your lower self kept trying to drag into your future. And yes, it looked ugly. It felt unfair. It felt humiliating. It felt like loss. But not every loss is theft. Some losses are surgery. Some things had to leave because they were poisoning your vision. Some people had to expose themselves because your empathy kept lying to you on their behalf. Some structures had to collapse because you were getting too comfortable in places beneath your calling. You call it everything falling apart. Maybe it was everything false losing its grip. There's a difference. And once you see that, you stop panicking every time something ends. You stop worshiping familiarity. You stop begging broken things to stay. You stop trying to force dead energy back into motion. You stop chasing what has already revealed its limits. You get sharper. You learn to read patterns instead of promises. You learn to trust consistency over charm. You learn that just because something feels intense doesn't mean it's aligned. You learn that peace is not boring. It's a higher standard. You learn that being alone is infinitely better than being surrounded and still spiritually suffocating. That lesson right there changes lives. Because some of you are not afraid of failure. You're afraid of emptiness. That's why you keep holding on to almosts. Almost love. Almost friends. Almost opportunities. Almost respect. Almost versions of the life you actually want. But almost is expensive. Almost drains years. Almost steals confidence. Almost trains you to settle while calling it hope. No more. Right now, while everything is quietly changing around you, you need to become ruthless about what gets access to your mind, your body, your time, your focus, your future. Not cruel. Clear. Clear about what you answer. Clear about what you ignore. Clear about what you entertain. Clear about where your energy goes. Clear about who only shows up when you're bleeding. Clear about which habits make you feel powerful and which ones make you feel easy to control. Because your life is not built in grand speeches. It is built in access points. What gets your attention gets your life. What gets repeated gets rooted. What gets tolerated gets stronger. So ask yourself the question most people avoid because it's too confronting. What have you been feeding that is feeding on you? What pattern? What person? What fear? What fantasy? What addiction to being chosen by those who never deserved your devotion? Look at it. Really look at it. Because the moment you stop romanticizing what hurts you, your recovery begins. The moment you stop idolizing what ignores you, your dignity returns. The moment you stop waiting to feel ready, your real life starts breathing. And don't make the mistake of thinking change has to look beautiful while it's happening. Sometimes change looks like withdrawal, like tears you can't explain, like rage you have to learn how to direct, like deleting things you once begged for, like sitting alone on a Friday night because your peace matters more than your image, like rebuilding your standards while everybody calls you distant. Like getting your heart broken open and finding something stronger behind it. That stronger thing, that's you. Not the performance, not the mask, not the polished version crafted for acceptance. You, the one underneath all the adaptation, the one who remembers what hunger feels like, the one who knows deep down that they were not made to live half asleep, the one who is tired of explaining their fire to people, committed to staying cold. And once that version wakes up, really wakes up, your whole life becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Because then you stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, what kind of life am I building with the little time I have? You stop asking, how do I keep everyone comfortable? And start asking, what truth have I been postponing because I'm scared of who it might offend? You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what if staying the same is the real failure? That question changes everything, because staying the same has a cost, a savage one. It costs your edge, your confidence, your intuition, your time, your aliveness, your chance to meet the version of yourself that exists on the other side of disciplined courage. And that version of you is closer than you think. Not years away, not some fantasy. Closer, in the next decision, in the next boundary. In the next morning you choose discipline over delay. In the next moment you refuse to betray yourself, just because being loyal to your growth feels unfamiliar. That's how it happens, quietly, again and again. One choice, one refusal, one act of self-respect. One day where you finally stop handing your future to your moods. And then one day people will look at you and say, you changed. They'll say it like they discovered something, like it happened overnight, like it came out of nowhere. But you'll know the truth. You'll know it happened in silence, in the private wars, in the swallowed tears, in the disciplined mornings, in the nights you chose not to go back, in the moments you were breaking and building at the same time, in the quiet, brutal, sacred season where everything around you was shifting, and instead of collapsing with it, you decided to become the one thing that could not be controlled anymore. Listen closely, beautiful menace, because this one is for the ones they laughed at first, for the ones who sat in rooms full of fake smiles and quiet judgment, while people looked at your mind like it was a problem to solve instead of a force to respect. For the ones who got called too intense, too much, too deep, too weird, too unpredictable, too sharp for comfort, too honest for the room, too awake for the lie everybody else agreed to live in. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They didn't mock your mind because it was broken. They mocked your mind because it saw through them. That's what nobody says out loud. They weren't confused by you. They were exposed by you. There's a difference. A broken mind begs to fit in. A dangerous mind notices the game, notices the masks, notices the weak little social contracts people hide behind, so they never have to face how hollow they've become. And the second you started seeing that, the second you stopped swallowing every fake rule they handed you, they got nervous, so they did what scared people always do. They laughed, they rolled their eyes, they made little comments, called you dramatic, called you crazy, called you unstable, called you arrogant, called you impossible. Not because any of it was true, because labeling you felt safer than understanding you. And you know what's wild? Some of you almost believed them. Not all at once. That would have been too obvious. No, it happened slowly, quietly, in pieces. A comment here, a rejection there. A room that got awkward when you told the truth. A friendship that got weird when you outgrew the role they assigned to you. A family member who kept saying, "Why can't you just be normal?" Like normal was ever something worth worshipping. So you started questioning yourself. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I do overthink. Maybe I should shrink. Maybe I should soften. Maybe I should shut up. Maybe I should stop feeling so deeply. Maybe I should stop seeing what I see. Maybe life would be easier if I became easier to digest. And for a while, maybe you tried. You watered yourself down. You edited your thoughts before they left your mouth. You laughed when things weren't funny. You made yourself smaller so insecure people could feel bigger. You sat there pretending not to notice disrespect, because calling it out always made you the problem. You played nice. You played polite. You played manageable. And it still wasn't enough, was it? Because people who benefit from your silence never reward your shrinking. They just demand more of it. That's the trap. They tell you to calm down, but what they really mean is become easier to control. They tell you to be realistic, but what they really mean is stop threatening the limits they accepted for themselves. They tell you to get help, but what they really mean is please return to a version of yourself that doesn't make us feel ordinary. And that's where the whole thing starts to crack open. Because one day, even the therapist starts defending you. Let that sink in. The same type of person they thought would sit across from you, nod slowly, write some little notes, and confirm their favorite story about you. Didn't. The person they expected to diagnose your difference as dysfunction looked deeper and saw something they couldn't control. Pattern recognition, emotional precision, unusual awareness, a mind moving faster than the room, a soul reacting to fake energy exactly the way a healthy soul should react to fake energy. And suddenly the narrative starts falling apart. Because it's one thing when you defend yourself. People dismiss that. It's easy for them to say you're biased, defensive, emotional, lost in your own story. But when someone trained to study pain looks at your mind and says, "No, this isn't what they think it is," that hits different. Now they don't know what to do, because the whole time they needed you to be wrong. They needed your intensity to be illness. They needed your depth to be damage. They needed your refusal to play fake to be instability. They needed your fire to be a flaw. Because if it's not a flaw, then what does that make them? That's the real panic. Not that you were falling apart, that you were becoming undeniable. See, some people can handle your sadness better than your power. Read that in your bones. Some people are deeply comfortable around the version of you that doubts itself. They know how to talk to that version. They know how to advise it. They know how to manage it. They know how to keep it in circles, second-guessing itself forever. But the second you stop apologizing for your mind, the second you stop treating your perception like a disease, the second you realize your so-called overthinking was actually you, noticing patterns other people were too asleep to catch, everything changes. Your posture changes. Your silence changes. Your standards change. Your tolerance changes. The energy shifts. Now, when somebody lies to your face, you don't sit there confused. You see it immediately. Now, when someone tries to guilt you for having boundaries, you don't melt. You clock the manipulation. Now when somebody calls you difficult because you won't let them disrespect you, don't panic. You let the label sit where it belongs, on their mouth, not your identity. That's growth. Not becoming softer just to make toxic people comfortable. Not learning how to smile through betrayal. Not mastering the art of self-abandonment. Growth is when your mind stops turning against itself. Growth is when the voice in your head finally stops sounding like the people who underestimated you. Growth is when you realize that half your suffering came from trying to explain your frequency to people committed to misunderstanding it. You spent years asking, "What's wrong with me?" Now the better question is, why was I surrounded by people who needed something to be wrong with me? That question changes everything. Because once you ask that, the room gets real quiet. Now you're not just healing. Now you're investigating. Now you're replaying conversations with new eyes. Now you're seeing how many times people called you unstable simply because you reacted to disrespect. How many times they called you arrogant simply because you finally recognized your value. How many times they called you negative simply because you named the truth nobody else had the stomach to say. How many times they called you selfish simply because you stopped bleeding all over the floor for people who would never bandage you. That's the part that makes people uncomfortable, when you start translating their language. Because a lot of what they called concern was control in a nicer outfit. A lot of what they called advice was fear with polished wording. A lot of what they called love was access. Access to your time. Access to your energy. Access to your softness. Access to your constant forgiveness. Access to the version of you that kept saying, "Maybe they didn't mean it like that." No. A lot of them meant exactly what they did. You were just too conditioned to call it what it was, but not anymore. Now even the therapist is defending you. And I know that line cuts deep because it exposes something brutal. You weren't crazy for feeling off around certain people. You weren't paranoid for sensing fake love. You weren't broken for being wounded by betrayal. You weren't dramatic for reacting to chronic disrespect. You were having a sane response to an insane environment. There it is. Some of you grew up in emotional chaos and got shamed for adapting to it. Some of you were the only honest person in a family built on denial. Some of you were the only awake one in a friend group addicted to pretending. Some of you were punished not for doing wrong, but for noticing wrong. And when that happens long enough, you start carrying a very specific kind of pain. Not just hurt, confusion. Because your instincts keep telling you one thing, and the people around you keep telling you the opposite. Your body says danger. They say relax. Your soul says this is fake. They say you're overreacting. Your intuition says this person envies you. They say stop being dramatic. Your mind says I don't feel safe here. They say you're too sensitive. That kind of contradiction will make anybody question themselves. But once you get distance, once you get clarity, once somebody objective looks at what you survived and how precisely you learned to read energy, it starts making sense. Of course you notice tone shifts. Of course you read between the lines. Of course you catch what's unsaid. Of course your nervous system sharpened itself. Of course your mind became a blade. You didn't become intense by accident. You became intense because life kept handing you rooms where softness alone wasn't enough. And now look at you, still here, still thinking, still building, still surviving things that were supposed to flatten you. That's not weakness. That's not madness. That's adaptation with teeth. And now the people who laughed are uncomfortable because your survival started turning into power. That's the part they never planned for. They thought the humiliation would make you smaller. They thought the isolation would make you quieter. They thought the doubt would make you easier to shape. Instead, it refined you. It made you watch more carefully. It made you listen harder. It made you speak less and understand more. It made you deadly in ways loud people never see coming. Because the most dangerous person in the room is rarely the one making noise. It's the one who has suffered enough to understand human nature and healed enough to stop begging for approval from it. That's you now, or at least that's who you're becoming. And let me tell you something most people never learn. When insecure people can't outperform you, they try to pathologize you. When shallow people can't understand depth, they mock it. When weak people can't match conviction, they call it obsession. When average minds encounter uncommon perception, they call it crazy, because that's easier than admitting they're standing in front of something rare. You need to remember that, because the next time somebody tries to reduce you with a lazy label, I want you to hear it for what it really is, a confession. They don't know how to hold what you are, that's all. And maybe that used to hurt more than it should have. Maybe part of you wanted to be received correctly, wanted to be understood, wanted somebody to finally look at you without fear, projection, or comparison. That desire is human, but don't let it chain you. Because sometimes closure is realizing they were never qualified to define you in the first place. You kept waiting for understanding from people whose whole self-image depended on misunderstanding you. That was never going to happen. And once you accept that, once you stop auditioning for acceptance in rooms that profit from your self-doubt, something savage wakes up inside you. Calm savage, not reckless savage. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself every 5 minutes. The kind that doesn't argue with disrespect. The kind that can look somebody in the face, hear the insult, and almost smile because now you understand the source. Projection, envy, fear, smallness. And the best part, you stop taking spiritual damage from low-level opinions. That right there is freedom. Not when everyone likes you. Not when everybody finally admits you were right. Not when the people who hurt you suddenly become self-aware and apologize with tears in their eyes. No. Freedom is when their inability to recognize your value no longer has the power to interrupt your relationship with yourself. That is liberation. That is the shift. That is when you stop begging for permission to be who you already are. And once that happens, your life starts moving different. You become more selective, more deliberate, more allergic to fake connections. You stop explaining your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. You stop giving 10 chances where one truth was enough. You stop shrinking your language so liars can stay comfortable. You stop dressing your instincts up as insecurity just because that version of the story is easier for other people to swallow. You trust yourself faster. You leave faster. You detach faster. You recover faster. Not because you stopped feeling, because you stopped negotiating with what you feel. That's power, real power, not fake internet confidence, not loud posting, quote sharing, look at me performance. I'm talking about the kind of power that walks into a room and no longer asks, do I belong here? It asks, does this place deserve my presence? That's a whole different frequency. And yes, that scares people, especially people who remember the version of you that used to flinch, the version that over-explained, the version that chased closure, the version that kept reopening wounds just to prove you had a heart. They miss that version because they knew how to benefit from it. But the version of you that knows, the version of you that has seen the pattern, named the game, and stopped romanticizing disrespect, that version is expensive. That version costs honesty. That version costs accountability. That version costs depth. And not everybody can afford you anymore. Good. Let them choke on the downgrade they chose. Let them sit with the empty space where your loyalty used to be. Let them replay the moments they mistook your patience for weakness. Let them remember how gently you once handled people who only ever deserved distance. Because some lessons only land after access is gone. And while they're losing their minds trying to update their story about you, you need to keep moving. No more standing in yesterday's courtroom trying to prove your innocence to people addicted to the image of your guilt. No more offering your inner world to spectators. No more giving your truth to people who turn vulnerability into gossip. No more confusing being needed with being valued. That season is dead. This season is different. This is the season where your mind stops being a cage and becomes a weapon, a tool, a compass, a kingdom. This is where you stop treating your complexity like a burden and start treating it like an advantage. Because that's what it is. You read patterns faster. You notice motives quicker. You smell fake before the sentence finishes. You can feel when something is off, even when everybody else is smiling. That is not a curse when it's paired with self-trust. That becomes precision. That becomes discernment. That becomes your edge. And once you learn to guide it instead of fear it, you become incredibly hard to play with. That's why they're unsettled now. Not because you changed into someone fake, because you returned to someone true. And truth has a way of terrifying people who built their comfort on illusion. So let them talk, let them whisper, let them say you've changed, you were supposed to. That's what happens when a person finally stops betraying themselves just to keep peace with people who never brought them any. You were supposed to get colder with deception. You were supposed to get sharper with your standards. You were supposed to get harder to manipulate after everything you learned. That isn't bitterness. That's intelligence with scar tissue. And honestly, scar tissue sees better than untouched skin, because it knows where the knife usually comes from. So the next time you remember the laughter, the mocking, the weird looks, the patronizing advice, the little digs disguised as jokes, I don't want you to collapse into old shame. I want you to see the scene clearly. They were never above you. They were threatened by how deeply you think, threatened by how strongly you feel, threatened by how quickly you catch inconsistency, threatened by the fact that your mind couldn't be domesticated without destroying what made it special. And now even the therapist is defending you. Now the story they used to keep you small is falling apart in public. Now the thing they called dysfunction is being recognized as discernment, complexity, perception, resilience. Now your mind is no longer on trial. Now their judgment is, and that is a brutal reversal. Because once the lie breaks, people have to face what they really did. They didn't protect themselves from your instability. They attacked what they didn't understand. They mocked what they secretly feared. They tried to medicate what exposed them